still raining!
Hi everybody, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for an album review. This band is named Cormorant, and this album is titled Dwellings. These guys are a California metal band. This is their sophomore LP. It's self-released. And this LP is definitely a nice little surprise gem that landed at the end of this year, because these guys have a lot that's worth admiring. They're really heavy, they're really melodic, their songs are very detail-oriented, not to mention these guys are really dynamic in how they build their songs too. There's so much to say about this record, I don't even know where to start, because as I listened through this album, every time I thought I had Cormorant kind of figured out, they'd pull another surprise out of their sleeve, another influence, another emotion, another trick. So I figure I'll just kind of start with the sound of this album, which is really great. The production on this thing is killer. Whether the band is just shooting for these mountainous highs or these really kind of dramatic and quiet lows. All the sounds are just really pristine, and the recording just has this really nice mix of clarity, but also like grit too. The guitars come in really heavy, the vocals come in really raspy, and it all just sounds so live. And not that a lo-fi recording is bad, but I think being able to make out the bass lines, being able to take in the detail of the guitar solos, being able to hear intelligible vocals that have a really strong narrative, all those things just make me appreciate this album even more. The band covers a lot of different sounds and textures on this album. They're really booming, heavy guitar chords that ring out in a really doomy way on the second track. Harmonized guitar solos on Unearthly Dreamings. There's an instrumental track as well with these really kind of oddly timed progressive riffs and shots of black metal blast beats here and there too. These guys really work to blend a lot of genres together, and that to me is kind of what their style is. Black metal, doom metal, progressive metal, death metal as well on here, and it's all fed through this great production and this really melodic sensibility. There's spots on here that made me think of Mastodon, and then these guys would push into a different direction, and then I'd think of like Agalloch, and then they would push into a different direction, and I'd think of like Opeth. The sounds that influence Cormorant on this record are pretty obvious, but how they pull them all together, it's just really graceful. And that's what kind of makes this record unique to me. Like the opening chords on A Howling Lust, which are really kind of pretty and a little folky in a way, build into these really pummeling riffs nicely. The Purest Land has these interjecting black metal moments that bring the insanity of that track even higher. And I love how there are spots on these tracks that kind of transition into these very kind of post-Rockian vocal samples where you'll get this big long vocal snippet that will kind of push the narrative of the song forward. And that's really kind of the last thing on this record that to me makes it a pretty bold release. The narratives, the tales that are being spun into these songs. Some of the lyrics on here you can follow from the beginning to the end of a song and really get a lot out of it if you're listening hard enough. It's almost like these guys are composing stories as well as songs. And sometimes it's almost like the lead singer is playing a character in this story that he's pulling together. And a lot of these stories reflect real life, and every song has a different tale behind it. The song The Purest Land sort of seems to be about this genocidal madman who's just like out of control and just like is kind of a megalomaniac. The vocals on that track just feel noticeably crazier than the other songs. The second track on here is actually about high wire artist Philippe Petit, and there are lyrics on here about the wire and flying, and some of the lyrics are actually in French too. The song JUNTA lyrically is one of the most specific songs on here. It's about atrocities that happened in Guinea not too long ago. The song Unearthly Dreamings is about an astronaut who dies in the line of duty, and A Howling Lust is about a lynch mob that gangs up and kills a Chinese man for defending himself against someone who was trying to hurt him. All the stories on this album deal with death, facing death, injustice, and the darkness of humanity. And the songs and the emotions on this record react to those ideas and situations, kind of tumbling back and forth between aggression and melancholy. I know I love what I'm hearing, but I don't feel like I 100% understand it yet, because there are a lot of layers and there are a lot of details to breathe in with this record, whether it be narrative-wise or whether it be musically. This thing really manages to come across as a piece of like thinking man's metal without being really technical or just like enveloped in its own skill. It's a great balance of story and song. There's lots of variation on here, and it all kind of comes together underneath, I guess, this consistent vocal and great production. I think somebody who's really not even into metal sometimes can get into this record and really appreciate the melody and the songwriting that goes into these tracks. I'm feeling a decent 8 on this record. As far as negatives go, I feel like some of the tracks on here do feel a little long-winded. Some of the vocal samples here and there get a little distracting for me. And I felt like on the instrumental track here, these guys did lose their flavor a little bit. I will say that I do think their vocalist and just their ability to spin these narratives is part of what makes these guys so interesting and original. All that aside, this thing is a hell of a record. It sounds like a lot went into it, and therefore I am getting a lot out of it. Have you heard this thing? What do you think of it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Why? And what do you think I should review next? Anthony Fantano, Cormorant Dwellings, forever.